The star is born from distance. Not emotional distance, not cruelty but aesthetic distance. The space that turns a person into a projection, where others are fully visible, fully accessible, fully explained. The star remains slightly out of focus, not hidden, and finished. Daily life grinds people down. Routine dulls the senses. Predictability drains color from desire. Most people walk through their days half asleep, surviving instead of imagining. And into this gray field steps the star, radiant, elevated, and real. The star does not compete. The star contrasts. You do not approach a star the way you approach others. You look up. The star understands that fascination is not created through intimacy, but through suggestion. He or she offers glimpses, not confessions. Signals, not explanations. The star's presence feels like an interruption in reality, as if something cinematic has wandered into the ordinary world and refused to obey its rules. This is the star's first power, visual dominance. Stars shape perception before they ever speak. Their style is not fashionable, it is singular. A color choice that lingers in the eye. A silhouette that becomes recognizable from across a room. A way of moving that feels slightly detached from gravity, as if the body were an idea first and flesh second. Nothing about them feels accidental, and yet nothing feels forced. People watch before they approach. They imagine before they engage. The star never rushes to fill silence. Silence enhances the illusion. When the star speaks, it is often softer than expected, slower, almost dreamlike. Words seem chosen not for efficiency, but for atmosphere. Conversations feel less like exchanges and more like scenes, moments suspended in time. And crucially, the star remains vague. Not evasive, vague. There is a difference. Evasion repels. Vagueness invites. The star answers without answering, reveals without clarifying. You sense depth without being shown its limits. This allows the observer's imagination to do the work to project desire, meaning, fantasy onto the star's outline. People do not fall for who the star is. They fall for who they believe the star might be. This is where the unconscious takes over. The star becomes a screen onto which longing is projected. Escape from routine, beauty without responsibility, passion without consequence. The star represents a life lived elsewhere, above, beyond, and touched by the grit of the everyday. To watch them is to momentarily escape yourself. And the star encourages this from afar. They are present but not available, seen but not possessed. Their distance is not cold, it is curated. They leave early, they arrive late, they disappear without explanation. Each absence increases demand. Each reappearance feels like a gift. This is the rhythm of fascination. Too much presence kills mystery. Too much mystery kills connection. The star balances both by staying just out of reach. Emotionally, the star appears light and burdened, floating, and touched by urgency. They do not complain. They do not chase. They do not explain their moods. This makes them feel timeless, as if they exist in a different tempo than everyone else. Others rush. The star drifts. And drifting creates desire. People want to anchor what floats. They want to grasp what glimmers. The star does not resist this pull but does not yield to it either. They allow attention without absorbing it, admiration without obligation, love without ownership. This frustrates and intoxicates at the same time. The star's sexuality when present is indirect. It is suggested through light, movement, tone, absence. It lives in implication, not action. A look held a fraction too long. A smile that arrives late and leaves early. A body that feels admired even when untouched. This is eroticism without contact. Seduction without pursuit. The star understands that what is seen too clearly loses its power. So they blur the edges. They become unforgettable not through intensity, but through after-image, the way they linger in the mind, long after they've left the room. And slowly, something happens. People begin to organize their attention around the star. They notice when the star is present and when they are not. They tell stories about them. They speculate. They exaggerate. The star becomes less a person and more a phenomenon. This is the danger and the power of the role, because the star must now protect the illusion. To descend too far into normalcy is to shatter the dream. To overexpose the self is to collapse fascination into familiarity. The star must remain selective, choosing when to appear, when to speak, when to vanish. This is not arrogance. It is discipline. The star does not belong to everyone. That is precisely why everyone wants them. And in this first phase, the illusion is only beginning to form. The glow is faint but unmistakable. Attention has been captured but not yet controlled. The watchers are curious, not devoted. The dream is forming but not yet consuming. That comes next, because once people begin to need the escape you represent, once they associate you with relief from their own lives, fascination deepens into fixation, and the star learns how to turn being watched into being desired, without ever stepping fully into reach. Once fascination is sparked, the star must learn how to feed it without satisfying it. This is where most fail. They mistake attention for intimacy, admiration for connection, visibility for power. The star understands something subtler and far more dangerous. To remain an object of fantasy, you must never become fully real. At this stage, people are no longer merely watching you or beginning to occupy their inner world. They think of you when you are absent. They replay moments. They exaggerate small details. A glance becomes a signal. A silence becomes meaning. Their imagination has started to work for you. And imagination, once activated, is insatiable. The star now refines the art of controlled exposure. You allow yourself to be seen but only in fragments. A public appearance that feels effortless yet rare. A moment of vulnerability that seems accidental, never repeated. A trace of emotion that disappears before it can be questioned. This selective revelation creates emotional vertigo. People feel close to you one moment and distant the next. They cannot stabilize you. And instability breeds obsession. The star does not correct misinterpretations, does not clarify rumors, does not explain intentions. Explanation collapses fantasy. Ambiguity expands it. Others begin to fill the silence around you with stories, some flattering, some distorted, all powerful. And the star allows this mythology to grow. Because the more people speculate, the less they see you as ordinary. You are no longer bound by their reality, you float above it. This is where distance becomes erotic. Physical distance, emotional distance, temporal distance. You are present enough to remain relevant, absent enough to remain desired. The star understands rhythm the way musicians do, knowing when to hold a note, when to let it fade, when to re-enter with impact. You do not linger too long in any one space. You exit before saturation. You return before being forgotten. Each appearance feels slightly unreal, as if you stepped out of a dream rather than through a door. And when people finally speak to you, they are often surprised. You are quieter than expected, calmer, less eager. This dissonance deepens the spell. They expected fireworks, but instead encounter gravity. They feel the weight of your presence, not its noise. You do not perform for them. You allow them to perform for you. This reversal is crucial. The star never chases validation. Validation is pulled toward you by contrast. Where others seek to be liked, you seem already complete. Where others explain themselves, you seem uninterested in being understood. This creates a subtle hierarchy, unspoken but felt. People begin to adjust their behavior around you. They become more careful with words, more aware of their posture, more eager to impress. You have become a reference point. Emotionally, the star remains light but not shallow. You appear untouched by desperation, yet not detached from feeling. This balance is rare. Most people tip too far into coldness or neediness. The star floats between, unreachable yet warm enough to invite longing. Sexuality at this stage intensifies not through action, but through withholding. A smile that suggests familiarity but never confirms it. A compliment that feels intimate but remains general. A touch that brushes past rather than lands. These moments are never repeated the same way twice. Repetition dulls sensation. Variation sharpens it. People begin to crave another moment, another look, another coincidence, another chance. They tell themselves they are not obsessed, but they adjust their schedules, their routes, their attention in hopes of crossing your orbit again. This is not love, it is enchantment. And enchantment feeds on uncertainty. The star also learns to remain emotionally unburdened. Complaints, frustrations, confessions of hardship, all these belong to the ordinary world. The star does not drag reality behind them. Even pain, when revealed, feels poetic, abstract, already transformed into something beautiful. This makes others feel heavier by comparison. They come to you to escape themselves, to feel lighter, to step into a different tempo of existence. You are not solving their problems, you are suspending them. And suspension is addictive. At this point, people no longer want to possess you. They want to experience you, to be near your glow. to be reflected in your orbit. You become a living symbol of escape, of possibility, of a life less constrained. But the star must remain vigilant. Too much accessibility dissolves illusion. Too much detachment turns fascination into frustration. The art lies in modulation. You offer just enough to keep the dream alive but never enough to end it. You remain human enough to feel real, distant enough to feel unattainable. You allow admiration, but never dependence. You accept desire, but never obligation. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, fascination deepens into something stronger. People do not merely watch you anymore. They wait for you. They feel your absence as a lack. They sense your presence as relief. Your arrival alters mood. Your departure leaves a residue. You have entered their unconscious. And once there, you no longer need to act. The star shines simply by being. The question now is not how to attract, but how to sustain enchantment without collapsing under it. How to remain elevated without becoming isolated. How to let others orbit you without being pulled back down into gravity. That is the next test. And it is where the star either fades or becomes unforgettable. By the time the star reaches this phase, fascination has quietly crossed into dependence. Not the obvious kind, no one admits it. Not even to themselves, but a subtler reliance that lives beneath logic. People begin to organize their emotional weather around your presence. Their moods lift when you appear. Their attention dulls when you are gone. They may not say your name aloud, but it echoes in their internal monologue. This is where the star becomes dangerous. You are no longer just admired, you are used as an escape. And escape, once tasted, becomes a necessity. The star now learns the art of symbolic living. You do not behave like someone struggling through life. You behave like someone existing outside of it. Problems seem to touch you lightly, if at all. You speak of chaos as if it were weather, interesting, transient, never personal. You are not above reality, but you appear untouched by its weight. This creates contrast so sharp it hurts. Others begin to feel the heaviness of their own lives more acutely around you. Their obligations feel louder. Their routines feel duller. Their compromises feel more suffocating. You do not cause this consciously, you merely illuminate the difference. And difference fuels longing. At this stage, the star's vagueness becomes intentional strategy. You reveal less than ever, but what you do reveal feels intimate. A half-truth spoken softly. A memory referenced but not explained. A glance that lingers just long enough to suggest recognition without confirmation. People feel seen by you without knowing if they truly are. This uncertainty keeps them emotionally alert. They replay interactions, searching for clues. Did that smile mean something? Was that pause deliberate? Was that comment meant only for me? The star never answers these questions. The star lets them multiply. Ambiguity is now your atmosphere. Your physical presence takes on a dreamlike quality. People notice how light moves around you, how your stillness feels deliberate, how even your absence seems staged, not planned, but inevitable, as if you exist according to a rhythm no one else controls. When you disappear, you do not announce it. You do not explain. You let imagination fill the void. Some assume you are busy. Others assume you are elsewhere. Somewhere more beautiful, more exciting, more meaningful. All of these assumptions work in your favor, because the star is not defined by facts but by projection. Emotionally, people begin to attach feelings to you that have little to do with who you are. Hope, relief, inspiration, desire. You become a container for unexpressed dreams. To be near you is to feel closer to a version of life that feels richer, lighter, more alive. This is why people protect stars even against reality. They forgive inconsistencies. They excuse distance. They rationalize absence. Because losing the star would mean returning fully to the world they were trying to escape. And the star must never confront them with that truth. Instead, you offer aesthetic reassurance. A brief appearance. A soft message. A moment of warmth. Just enough to remind them that the dream still exists, that you still exist. Without grounding the fantasy in certainty. Certainty is poison here. Sexuality, if present, is now almost entirely psychological. Desire is no longer about touch. It is about anticipation. People imagine you more than they experience you. Their fantasies become more vivid than reality ever could be. You are no longer competing with real partners. You are competing with their imagination and winning. This is why the star never rushes intimacy. To consummate too soon is to end the spell. To explain yourself fully is to descend. The star understands that desire feeds best when it is never fully answered. Yet there is risk here. Isolation begins to creep in, not externally, but internally. To be constantly projected upon is to slowly disappear behind the projection. The star must guard against becoming hollow, against mistaking admiration for connection, fascination for understanding. Some stars collapse here. They overexpose. They seek validation. They try to be loved instead of admired. And the illusion fractures. But the disciplined star does something else. You redirect energy inward. You cultivate a private life that remains untouched by the gaze. You ground yourself in purpose, not reaction. This inner solidity allows you to remain ethereal outwardly without losing yourself. Because true stars are not empty. They are contained. Now, when you appear, there is depth behind the glow. When you speak, there is conviction beneath the softness. When you vanish, it feels intentional, not evasive. People sense this. They begin to respect you as much as they desire you. Fascination matures into reverence. You are no longer just an escape, you are a reference point for beauty, possibility, and restraint. And with reverence comes restraint. People hesitate to approach you too closely. They fear ruining the image. They fear seeing too much. You are admired from a distance that feels safe but also painful. This tension is exquisite. The star now stands at a crossroads. Remain forever distant, becoming myth but losing human connection. Or descend too far, becoming real but losing magic. The final mastery lies in choosing neither fully, to remain luminous without burning out, to be seen without being consumed, to inspire without being possessed. This balance, fragile, deliberate, exact, is what separates fleeting fascination from lasting legend. And in the final movement, the star must decide how to leave an imprint without overstaying, how to exit without disappearing, how to let the dream linger even after the lights dim. That is the final act, and it determines whether the star fades or becomes unforgettable. The final mastery of the star is not how brightly they shine, but when they choose to dim the light. This is the moment where fascination is either sealed into memory or eroded by excess. The star understands what few ever grasp. Presence is only powerful because of absence. Without distance, the glow collapses into familiarity. Without restraint, wonder becomes consumption. At this stage, the star no longer needs to attract. Attraction is automatic. The gaze follows them without effort. Silence bends toward them. Rooms recalibrate themselves around their arrival. But power has shifted inward. The star is no longer feeding on attention, attention feeds on them. And this is dangerous. Because to be endlessly watched is to be slowly devoured. The star now lives inside a paradox. Adored yet untouched. Desired yet unclaimed. Known yet unknowable. People feel as though they know the star intimately yet cannot point to a single concrete truth. Memories blur into impressions. Conversations feel half-remembered. Encounters feel like dreams recalled upon waking. This is intentional. The star has refined their elusiveness into an art. They appear less frequently now, but with greater impact. Each appearance feels significant, almost ceremonial. People sense that time with the star is finite, and scarcity sharpens perception. Every glance is noticed. Every word is remembered. Every gesture becomes symbolic. The star has become mythic. Emotionally, people now attach meaning to the star's movements. A delayed response becomes destiny. A missed encounter becomes loss. The star is no longer just a person, they are an emotional landmark. Others orient themselves around the possibility of crossing paths again. And yet, the star does not indulge this dependence. They never reassure longing. Never confirm attachment. Never promise continuity. Promise would anchor the dream. The star refuses anchors. Instead, they cultivate detached warmth. When present, they are generous. Attention feels real, not performative. But it is never binding. The star gives moments, not access. Experiences, not possession. This creates a strange ache. People feel nourished and hungry at the same time. Sexual energy, if present at all, is now almost entirely symbolic. It lives in tone, pacing, proximity, absence. Desire has moved beyond the body and into the imagination completely. The star understands that once desire reaches this level, fulfillment would only disappoint. So they do not fulfill. They withdraw gracefully. Not suddenly, not cruelly, but slowly, like twilight. Less availability, longer absences, fewer explanations. The star allows the fantasy to peak before it collapses under its own weight. This withdrawal does not provoke anger, it provokes reverence. People do not feel rejected. They feel chosen once and released. And that release elevates the memory. What ends without degradation becomes legend. The star's final act is not disappearance but transformation into memory. Those who encountered them are changed. Their standards shift. Ordinary interactions feel duller. Reality feels heavier. They have tasted an aesthetic of life that was lighter, more fluid, more dreamlike, and they cannot unfeel it. This is the star's deepest power. They do not dominate the present, they haunt the future. Long after the star has moved on, people still think of them at odd moments during quiet nights. Familiar songs, half-lit rooms. Not with pain, but with longing softened by beauty. The star becomes associated with a feeling rather than a face. Escape, possibility, unreality. And that feeling cannot be replaced. Yet the star themselves does not cling to this legacy. To do so would be to become dependent on reflection. Instead, they step back into anonymity when needed. They ground themselves privately, away from projection. They remember that illusion is powerful, but living inside it is suffocating. The wise star never forgets the difference between being admired and being whole. They know when to shine. They know when to vanish. They know when the dream has reached its perfect ending. And so, without announcement, without farewell, the star fades from the immediate field of vision, leaving behind a trail of altered expectations, heightened sensitivity, and quiet dissatisfaction with the ordinary. People return to their lives, but something has shifted. They want more beauty, more mystery, more space for imagination. They may chase reflections of the star elsewhere, but none will quite match. Because the original was never meant to be held. The star does not belong to the world. They pass through it, illuminating, and settling, and chanting, and then move on. That is the final seduction. To be unforgettable without staying, to be desired without possession, to exist as a dream that reality can never quite erase.